Welcome to this bonus episode of the Yogi Triathlete podcast made possible by you guys, our Pod Squad. Members of the Pod Squad support this podcast to keep it commercial free. It's been commercial free since 2016. And I think it's really important to have this uninterrupted stream of information getting out to the world, especially today's podcast, because I think there's going to be many nuggets of gold here. I'm Jessica Mkowski, and today we're bringing you this very special conversation with Yogi Triathlete Master Coach, BJ Gumkowski, who is fresh in his hoodie, his race hoodie, who is fresh off the Ironman World Championship just 2 days ago, a race that is now a defining story of resilience, grit, and the power of possibility. My gosh. On October 5th, BJ was involved in a severe bike crash that left him unable to walk without crutches, with road rash wounds covering his entire right side. For weeks, it seemed impossible that he'd make it to the start line, let alone the finish. But instead of succumbing to the odds, BJ held steady in the realm of possibility. Training his mind now for years served him in the realm of staying open, despite what the evidence of now was showing him. On October 26th, against all expectations, BJ took to the water, completing the swim within a minute of his previous World Championship time, and then pushing through a challenging bike leg and ultimately covering every inch of that 26.2-mile marathon step by step, hour by hour by hour by hour into the finish chute under the night sky. What he accomplished that day was nothing short of miraculous, a testament to the strength of the human spirit and to BJ's unwavering commitment to his purpose. Today, we're going to hear directly from BJ as he reflects on what it took to rise up from one of the biggest setbacks of his life, how this journey has transformed him, and how it's elevating his leadership, athleticism, coaching, and vision for Yogi Triathlete. This is an episode filled with wisdom, triumph, and inspiration. So let's dive in and hear from the man who defied the odds to show us all what's possible. Hi, Beach.
Hey.
Normally
Aloha.
my co-host, now my guest. Well, let's just start. I've got lots of good questions here, and I want to start with just how are you feeling right now? Because, you don't look like you did some miraculous event a couple days ago.
It's quite amazing what the body, once trained, what it can do. I don't feel anything different from the sensation in my body from the crash. Other than that, there's nothing I'm feeling. I feel like I could go out and train today if I didn't have the pain that's in my glute and hip area. So yeah, I feel really good. Like I feel energetic. I don't feel like I did a 16-hour, 10-minute Ironman. My slowest Ironman to date, my 22nd Ironman. And just a few months ago, 3 months ago, I was 5 minutes off my PR time of the Ironman. So to have that contrast of coming close to my fastest and having my slowest in the same season speaks volumes to, what my mind is willing to accept, willing to not get frustrated about because it's so polar opposite. And that has to do with what you said. It's the mindset training, welcoming all things. And I know we'll get into that. But yeah, I feel pretty good. I don't feel worse from doing the Ironman. And I would say I feel slightly better. Two things can happen, I think, in an experience like this. One, it can really debilitate you and, knock you down. Or it can actually, and this has happened to me many times, and I know it's happened to you too, like it can open up the freedom for the body to then release an intense amount of suffering and tension and tightness into releasing and letting it go to open up the space for that next level in healing. And that's what I'm experiencing. It's not for everyone. I understand that. But you and I both have seen this in the past in our own experiences and in other athletes, that when you continue to move forward, it actually opens up a little bit more space in there for the healing to happen.
I think it's important that you mentioned that, because I know some people were concerned. I was getting some messages when you were out there on the run, especially when I did that first video when you said that your pain was 8 out of 10. People were concerned that you were going to injure yourself more. They were so honest and vulnerable, and we appreciate all of that, you guys. Obviously, this experience has affected more than just BJ, more than just me and BJ, more than our team, but like this entire community. And it's important to note that you're not any worse off. In fact, you might be actually a little bit better, which is crazy. But sometimes, like, we need to do something big to kind of knock ourselves into the next phase, which is exactly what you did. What?
Well, I want to say, like, people were probably wondering, well, how do you know? Like, how did I know that this wasn't putting me in more pain, more making me worse than making it worse than it was? That comes with a lot of time spent in meditation, getting to know yourself, getting to know your thoughts, getting to really get to know your body. I know my body super well. I know it really well, probably better than I know it better than anyone because it's my body. But I also know my mind really well. And I know the tendency of the mind to grit and kind of push through something. And I know when it's like, I'm going to go until I have my answers, but I do know and I feel when I've gone too far. And how do I know that? I've had experiences in the past where I've gone a little bit beyond and it hasn't worked out. And I've learned from those experiences, but I did not let them define how I move forward. So I'm constantly meeting and greeting each moment to have an experience and then make a decision. And so when I said, and you had asked me what my pain level was in that moment, my mind was definitely not happy. It was not satisfied. It was in dissatisfaction. The arms were crossed. I didn't want to walk. And all those feelings and emotions stirred up an 8 out of 10. Now, is that really the truth? I don't know. Come to look at it later on in the race, I don't know. But I moved beyond and through that sensation to come out with, I think you asked me again later on, I was like, maybe 5 or 6. So it changed.
Well, you had said that it hadn't gotten any worse, and that was key. Like, so I saw you at the mile mark on Alihi Drive, and I just where you were emotional, you were painful, frankly, you were limping. And so you go down to Leahy, and then by the time he's going to see me again, we're pretty much at the 10K point. And I started walking. I think I met you at about like the 5-something mile mark. I started walking down to Leahy, and I saw you, and I was like, you looked better, and you were walking really fast. It was hard for me to even keep up with you. And when I captured another video of you, you were like, now I have purpose. Like, I didn't have purpose before. Now I have purpose. And I knew in that moment that we were in for the long haul, and I better just change my clothes and freshen up, because I was going to be there for another, 6 hours until you finished. And it was worth every moment. And of course, like at an Ironman World Championship or at an Ironman period, there's just so much to keep you going and keep you inspired. So I was up for it. I was in for it. And I knew at that point that you were not going to stop. I walked you up Palani and basically let you go down the Queen K. And at that point, nobody's coming to get you. So you got to get yourself back out, which I love. And I know you love those experiences.
I love bumping up against, you bump right up against it. And this is sort of the theme for this whole past 3 weeks is you bump up against the moment when a decision has to be made. And until then, you keep taking a step forward. And that reinforces in your brain in the patterning that says you've got to keep going. Don't give up. Keep going. Keep going. Energy and things shift so quickly in the body, as it's demonstrated here, as I've demonstrated over the past 3 weeks. Like, not putting weight on the leg to being able to walk a marathon and do the bike and the swim and travel and all of it. It's quite miraculous, you would say. But the mind needs, number one, the mind needs to be on board. And I had this experience in Plaza where I transcended sensation in the body, not to this intensity, but the same thing happened here when you saw me, something happened on the turnaround and the body began to warm up and I was able to move a little bit quicker, and I wasn't giving it enough attention for it to consume me. So using the mindset tools to shift where I was focused.
Well, let's dive into some questions.
Okay.
So When you were on the starting line, treading water in the ocean, knowing the journey that lie ahead, what was your inner dialogue like?
My main thought at that time was I just need to swim. I need to swim to the boat, get to the boat, stay to the outside and swim to the boat.
What's the boat?
The boat is at the halfway point. It's a turnaround, the body glove boat that everybody sees. Huge boat. Actually, let's backtrack. The first thing that came into my mind was like, I already won. I had shared that in previous videos and shared that on my lives. I already won by getting in the water to start the Ironman World Championships, collect my bag, rack my bike, do all the fueling, everything to put me in the position to start this race and to give myself the opportunity to finish the race. Let's talk about that, like getting the bike. 3 days after I crashed, already into the solution energy of getting a bike in case I was able to bike, wearing my super shoes in case I was able to run, all the things that fed the possibility. So getting to that start line, treading water before the gun went off, winning. I was already winning. So I kept focusing on that. I said, anything now is just, it's bonus. It's a bonus.
All right. Navigating doubt. Let's talk a little bit about navigating doubt.
Yeah.
We might be like jumping all over the place here, but I think we're going to get lots of gold in here anyway. In the weeks leading up to the race, so let's say those 3 weeks from October 5th to October 26th, was there ever a moment where you just almost like threw in the towel and you just said, I'm not doing this?
No. I don't think there was a moment of doubt. Do you?
No, it was weird. Like I didn't know. I didn't know what the end result was going to look like, but what I never doubted was coming here and you getting to the starting line. After that, I think we just all let go. But as you continued to get really better, and in week 2, where we were seeing like literally like miraculous healings, like there was miracles happening in your body, it was insane. Then I was like, whoa, he's going to do the swim. So it was like along the way. And then I was like, oh my God, he's going to like get on this bike and he's going to like start I knew if you got through the swim that you would start the bike. But again, like I didn't know what the outcome was going to be, but there was no doubt in my mind that we were coming here and that you were going to get to that start line.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
I mean, like I even thought there was, because you couldn't kick. You couldn't even kick.
So Sunday, I went to the pool the Sunday before the race. So 7 days before the race.
Yeah.
I went to the pool. I did my walking. I started doing my pulling with the pool buoy and swimming, and that was fine. And then I tried to kick, and I did 4 25s, and I could not get my hip to release. It was extremely nervy. That's the sensation, the nervy pinchiness in my hip, and I was unable to kick. It was like dead legs, no control over it. And that, I guess that would be a moment of doubt. I'm just like, I don't know. I think there's a difference. Okay, so I didn't know what would happen when I finally got to the start line in Kona, but I believed something amazing was waiting for me. So I don't know if you could say that was doubt or if it was just such a strong belief in that there's something greater waiting for me. So I don't know the discernment between that.
Yeah, but I think it was because it was so big. Like you couldn't walk, you couldn't get dressed by yourself. You couldn't like you were so incapacitated that I think I just knew like the water and your relationship to the water and how salty the water here is and how buoyant the water is here. And you were laughing at me many times during those weeks because I was like, you can just pull. And you were like, it's going to be so hard to just like pull without kicking for 2.4 miles. But I know your resolve, and I knew you were going to get to the starting line, and I knew you were going to do the swim. Like I knew there was no doubt about getting here and getting the starting line. And I think because of the enormity of what it takes to do an Ironman, I didn't know what else was going to happen after that. But just because I didn't know doesn't mean that I was doubting anything. I wasn't doubting anything. We were only feeding possibility. And that doesn't mean we were stupid or pretending that he wasn't in the shape he was in, but we were focusing forward. In the moments of anger and sadness, we expressed those and we moved on.
Yeah, quickly too. I didn't have any long moments of sadness or angry or frustration or anger. Yeah, I didn't dive into those. I really, it's all going to come back to really having sharp focus on what I wanted to focus on. I realized I had ownership of my decisions, and I had many opportunities to choose. I think I shared with you and people many times, like, this choice was right here that would feed anger, frustration, sadness. Why me? Poor me. This sucks. Will I ever be back? And I felt that it was always right here by my side. It never disappeared. It was always available to me, but I continued to choose to focus on what I wanted, not what I didn't want. And that's the power of training the mind. That is the power. If anything comes from this, the work that you do outside of the training with your mind will prepare you for the moments in training and racing that you are going to need to step up that focus. You cannot expect to do it on race day for the first time. It takes time. It takes, how do they explain it? Like that you wear that groove in your mind, or that pattern in your mind where it just is second nature, and it takes time to do that. I do not believe you can do that on race day and expect it to be all unicorns and rainbows when it gets real tough.
Yeah. Okay. Speaking of tough.
Yeah.
During the toughest part of the marathon. Okay. Tell us about a moment, which is like the toughest part of the marathon. I'm kind of jumping again. I'm jumping because then I was just going to go to the bike, but now I'm here. So let's just keep going with it. What was like the toughest part, a moment that you can share with us, and what kept you going?
So after I had seen you've already described going up Palani, like I was moving quick. I think I was hitting like 16-minute miles, which was quick. I was fired up. I approached mile 10-ish, 10, 11-ish. I can't quite remember on the Queen K. And that's when it shifted. Like, and Lawrence, thank you, Lawrence, for seeing me and working on my body here in Kona. Lawrence Lignan. He is just the body guru, running guru, mobility guru, that has transformed the way that I'm able to move my body, and continue to train and continue to do all the things that I love.
And why are you giving him an extra shout out?
Because he saw me here on the island. He was here on the island, and he was able to see me and to work on me, and an hour of just opening up the hip a little bit more. Like, of course, there's no miracle thing he's going to do that's like, oh my God, like all of a sudden I can run. But it was the possibility that I would have more flexibility, more range of motion, more space within my body and to diminish the pressure on the nerves so that I could swim well and then I could bike well. That's all we talked about. We didn't talk about running or walking or anything like that. And he was telling me, like, the nerves can be assholes, and they will show up and be assholes at any time. And at mile 10 or 11, the nerve became an asshole. It really was intense. It was so intense. And I was questioning the ability to finish the marathon. I was thinking, I'm just going to get halfway and I'm going to have to stop. And if I stop, who's coming to get me? How am I going to get back to transition? Like, and how am I going to deal with the feelings of having the body disrupt what I know I can achieve? And so I was doing everything possible, sticking my finger in my glute. I was doing yoga. I was doing down dog, lunges. I was doing everything you can think of. I was walking with my arm up over my head because that seemed to give me like 10% relief. And then that was the most challenging moment.
Was that down in the energy lab?
No, it was on the Queen K.
Before you even got to the energy lab?
Before I even got to the energy lab. And so it really tested me, and I just didn't know. But again, what came into my mind is what Meditator Bob, our meditation teacher, always says is, let whatever is be okay. And that is a powerful place to live from when nothing can disrupt your focus and attention, that you constantly welcome all things. And so I said to myself, I'm going to welcome this sensation. Let whatever is be okay. What's happening is I'm giving it too much attention. I'm focusing on it. I'm actually giving it energy to build. And what I needed to do was not ignore it, but shift my focus elsewhere. And so that's what I did. Went right into the mantra, let whatever is be okay. Let whatever is be okay. Let whatever is. And I kept moving forward. And after a few moments, it started to, I'm not going to say release, but it released by like 2%. And it started to just not have such a firm hold on me. And so that is the benefit of being able to understand that you cannot shut the sensation down or the thoughts down, but you can shift where you direct your attention to. Again, it's right there. I can feed that nerviness and that nervy asshole that was really inciting anger in my glute area, but I decided to just keep shifting to mantra. And it was like, be here now, be here now. I can't tell you how many times I said, be here now, a million, maybe. So that was probably the lowest moment.
Mm. All right, I'm going to rewind to the bike. So I had no doubt you were going to get through the swim. The bike was like, if you stepped back and you looked at what you were about to step into, not only were you going to ride 112 miles on the most challenging course. I rode the course just out to Javi on Thursday. It was 53 miles. It was the toughest 53 miles of my life. I threw up. I felt sick the whole time. It was like a head crosswind. It was dangerous. It was long. It was really, really brutal. It was everything that they say about this course. And the thing about one of the things that I've never heard about this course, which is what I realized the other day, is that nothing is too steep. So you might as well be doing Ironman Cozumel, right? Like it's like you treat it like a flat course. You're pushing the entire time. So here you are, you're getting on a bike that you've never ridden before, right? Like they say, don't do anything new before race day. He has a borrowed bike that he's never ridden before. And now you're going to be on a course where there's going to be zero relief. You're going to have to pedal every single bit of that 112 miles. Now, when you come out of transition, you go down, you come up Palani and you go down Kuakini and you do a little out and back. And actually you swing around and you do a little out and back. Yeah, before you head out like on the big road to nowhere. And when I saw you, because I know you so well, you did this thing with your arm. Like you were just like, kind of like how I picked it up was, I can't freaking believe this. I feel fine. That's what it translated to me. And I was at about mile 2 of the bike at that point. Was I picking up the right message?
Yeah, I think I was trying to give a thumbs up, like things were good on the bike. And let me just backtrack. I did ride the bike once. No, twice. I went up and back on the street here for 10 minutes. And then I went out and did an hour ride on the bike on the Queen K, just to make sure things were correct on the bike, like nothing was rattling or too funky. And yeah, I got on the bike, and at that moment I just was like, this doesn't make sense. Like it doesn't feel uncomfortable at all to be in this aero position and riding. And I was passing people, and I actually this is what's so cool, like the mind gets on autopilot. It's like race, bike, there's a guy in front of me, okay, get close, pass him, settle into your groove.
Oh, like there, that was like a neural pathway.
So groove. It's like, and I was like, wait a minute, I'm here to just complete the bike. I'm not actually racing this Ironman. And then that thought quickly shifted to like, no, if I feel good, I'm going to continue to go. I'm not going to try and piss off the nerve, but I'm going to keep going as fast as I can go, because I knew I needed, at that point, I was like, I need to bank some time for this marathon if I'm unable to actually run it, which there was no evidence I could run it. So the bike was a complete surprise. When I saw you, I was like, this is unreal. I can't believe I'm actually biking this. And that was only mile 2. So of course there's that going into the future saying like, oh, what's possible? Can I do a sub 6 bike? And then, or is it things going to happen? It's going to be like an 8-hour bike. And I was like, pump the brakes, be here now. Again, shifting focus to like right now. What do I need to do right now? I need to fuel every 10 minutes. That's what I need to do. Because in order to get through this Ironman bike, you need to fuel. And so we need to shift a focus away from any sensation or any thought about how fast you can go. It's about fuel and move forward, fuel and move forward, and do not stop whatsoever.
And did you, it seemed like the bike was uneventful.
Super uneventful. There was no drama. There was one moment when I had to stop because the front was making a lot of squeaking noise, something weird.
And of course, it's not your bike. So
it's not my bike.
So you have no idea what's going on.
I've never used disc brakes before. I've never ridden this bike. Something was squeaking, and then I wasn't able to turn. It was really weird. So I got off the bike, took off the front wheel, and then put the front wheel back on and continued on. And the squeaking would continue every now and then. But I found that if I lifted up the aero bar with like purposefully, it would stop squeaking. I don't know how to explain it. But yeah, uneventful. Although the winds in Hawi picked up and they were blowing across, and I was in aero position and I just started to fly out of Hawi, and not risking it, but getting hyper focused on being calm and relaxed in my grip, letting the wind move me and shift me. But it was a relaxity, like a flexibility to the wind moving. And again, I was like, Madame Pele, like, I know you've got my back and I know you're serving me up exactly what I need to have for this experience. So I'm trusting that this is what I'm supposed to do right now. I'm supposed to continue on and use the wind to my advantage, because I was going really fast, like 30 miles an hour. But at what cost? The cost was to feel the pushiness of the wind, not let it dictate that I needed to slow down or be up on the hoods, but that I would be taken care of. Like I would be provided for if I just relaxed, if I just eased into the intensity of the wind. And that was the choice that I made. So it was a constant process all day of deciding, making decisions, and then detaching. Decide and then detach, decide, detach, over and over and over again. And that's what got me through the bike pretty uneventfully. That's a great phrase. There was no major craziness on the bike.
So your swim time was, I don't know what the seconds are in these, but your swim time was a 1:15. Your bike time was a 6:11.
6:13.
6:13.
Yeah.
And I knew you weren't pushing it. And then of course the marathon was 8+ hours, which is
8:15.
Freaking insane. So power of community. We talk a lot about the power of community, power of the Pod Squad community, power of Team YogiTriathlete, power of the squad, power of YogiTriathlete in and of itself as a massive entity in this world. How did the support of the YogiTriathlete community, the athletes you coach, your friends, how did that play into your mental resilience to finish what you started?
Yeah, there was such a beautiful gathering of specifically our team and squad athletes that just had reached out and constantly fed the possibilities of what I could achieve, and that everything that I say to them, because I believe 1000% in every athlete that I work with, that they're capable of achieving things like this, it all came back to me. And I don't do it as a boomerang to come back. I don't feed our athletes in our community to get something back from it. I literally enjoy and 100% believe that they are possible of the same things I am. And so it was all coming back to me, and it brought up a lot of emotion. There were a lot of texts and messages I read that actually like stirred up tears and emotion that was tough to accept, because I constantly am outgoing with my.
Well, your nature is to give.
Yeah.
And you've had to work on receiving.
Yeah. And that, again, that was my work. That it was for me to keep reading these texts and working through those emotions. So it really helped.
What
It
about
really helped me get through.
what I had posted your first story when you said that you were an 8 out of 10, and then I was getting all these messages and I read them to you. Remember that when I saw you the second time?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
I know, I did too. I just remembered it. Yeah, to receive those words like right in the middle of it. At that point, you had expressed to me that you felt like you had purpose. You had the answer, and it was to keep going.
I think I know that if you don't have an answer, your definitive answer, you need to keep going until you have that definitive answer. So when you saw me, I was kind of, I don't know, confused. I'd say confused. Because I didn't even know if I went past mile 1. And you were like, "You're at mile 1." I was like, "Oh, okay." So I didn't have my focus yet. I was still working on it. So until this is where I see people get stuck. It's like I just need to figure out why, or need to figure out how, and then I'll move forward. The key here is to move forward, and then things will come into clarity. So I kept walking until I had the answer of what my purpose was. And a lot of times we stop way too soon. This happens with athletes in performance and training. This happens with starting a new business and leaving your life behind like we did. Like you're going to bump up against things that just don't make sense. And you need to keep going until the clarity comes. And sometimes it's an 8-hour and 15-minute marathon that needs to happen for you to have that next level of growth. If I was feeding the ego, it would say, you run 3:30 marathons, you're not going to be able to run. You're keeping Jess and Jennifer up late. Like they're going to have to wait for you. What is the real purpose behind doing this marathon? You can come back and begin to recover a little bit sooner and move your progress along for the future races that are coming. And all of that was like, no, I have to seize right now, because if I don't, I'm going to look back on this and I'm going to be like, this pattern of giving up, of stopping without really having a solid reason to stop, is just reinforcing an out. And I don't want to reinforce outs. I want to feed the possibility. So I kept going. I kept going and going and going until I had my answer. And it just so happens that it came at mile 4 or 5-ish. Probably when I saw Spee and Ayami, that was a really powerful moment. And their daughter, they were holding up signs that said BJ on a Leahy
And
Drive.
who is B and Ayami?
There are friends who you know from yoga teacher training.
Yeah, Ayami was in my yoga teacher training so many years ago.
And then we didn't stay with them, but we interviewed them and got together with them in Princeton, New Jersey on the High Vibe tour back in 2016, and have remained connected. And now they live here in Hawaii, in Kona, on the Big Island, and they live on a Leahy Drive. And they all made cardboard signs that said "Go BJ." And when I saw it, I was kind of confused at first. I'm like, what is that up there? Like, who's BJ? Do I know them? And as I got closer, they were all so supportive. Even their little daughter, who I gave a high five to. Yeah.
That seems to me that was a monumental moment.
I think so.
And I'm sure they have no idea that it was.
No.
But I feel like that, I mean, you tell me, like, if that was a monumental moment where because when I saw you, you were like, I have purpose. Like, was that the moment where?
I think it sparked, I gave them all hugs. And they said, "Oh, we're slowing you down." And I was like, I just need connection right now.
I need a hug.
I need a hug. I need to hug both of you guys. I haven't seen you in 8 years. Like, I need a hug. And it shows the power of community again. Like, we set off on this tour. You had connected with her. You reconnected to set up a workshop down there in New Jersey the year before. And it was just not the year before, actually. It was earlier in the year, because I was working for Amrita when we did that. And it comes full circle to be a spark to create the direction that I was now needing to feed. And it was to get through this Ironman. I can do this. Like I certainly can do this. Something had been ignited in me, in my mind, and so I stuck to it. I fixated on it, and then getting to see you again was pretty awesome. I wish I could have seen you way out on the Queen
Somebody
K
asked
for the
me,
marathon.
I can't remember who asked me, but somebody asked me, because you're walking, right? Nobody's going, and it's like you're back of the pack at this point. Like nobody's going to say, oh, your wife can't walk with you. Like nobody's going to do that. And so I could have walked with you for the whole marathon. And somebody said to me, are you going to take them all the way out to the energy lab? Like, are you going to walk with them? Kind of like, well, you're his wife. Like you need to do that. And I said, no, this is BJ's experience. And, you know, he needs to see it through, whatever that looks like. And I think that I walked you up to the Queen K and then left you there and literally like filmed you as you walked into the sunset. But I did not feel like it was my place to walk with you the entire time. And it may sound strange, but I made an assumption that you didn't want me to do that.
No. So the dynamic that you and I have as a couple, as best friends, as soulmates, like the agreement we have is to be in support, but to not control the outcome of that other person. You know, to check in with me. You asked many times, like, you're okay to go, like you're good to go. You're gonna do this. And I was like, yes, I'm gonna do it. You were like, okay, then we will be here waiting, and you got this. So you weren't in the lack mindset or the fear mindset or the control mindset because you want to control the outcome. You said many times, like, this is your experience, and then you let me go. Like you just shared, like you let me go on the Queen K and watch me walk away without like, oh no, like make sure you're okay, like should we check in later, like how. And it was just, there was none of that. It's just check in with me, how you doing, you got this, okay, we'll see you when you come in, and then you let go. So again, it's like you decided to check in with me, and then you just detach from whatever my response was, not trying to control the situation. And that for both of us has worked to allow us to grow exponentially and in our awareness of how we walk this world.
Yeah, I mean, and there was a couple messages that I got which kind of leaned me into like, are you being like an irresponsible, insensitive wife? Like letting him do, like, is this stupid? Kind of, not that anybody said those words, but kind of like, oh, should I be like trying to wedge myself into between BJ and his experience a little more? And my response was always just like, I'm not going to steal this experience from you. Like, even though was awful and, you know, probably one of the hardest things you've ever done, like, it's not my place to steal that experience from you and say to you, BJ, this is stupid. You have to, because I don't know, I'm not in your body,
Right.
but I respect you. And I know how much you have done to cultivate your relationship with yourself and your body. So who am I to say that you should or should not be doing anything? Because there, you know, in my mind, there is no good or bad. There's just experience. And so if the universe or God isn't going to take your free will from you, I'm certainly not going to do that. I did hammer you a little bit about feeding yourself because this was the longest event you were ever going to do. I said, this is the longest you're ever going to go. You're like, really? I was like, yeah, like you have, just because you're walking doesn't mean you're not subject to bonking. So I think that was the one thing that I just kind of hammered and then took my hands off.
Yeah, and I fueled very differently. I think I was confused when you had said that because it's like I've done Ironmans before. So we weren't talking about the distance, you were talking about the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I shifted to foods. I think I ate like 3 or 4 full bananas along
I
the
was like,
Ironman.
enjoy the buffet.
I
Like,
had potato chips. I had what else did I have? I had Martin gels. I had like 4 or 5 Martin gels, which it's a lot. I had 5 SIS gels. I had lots of cola, some
nice.
orange slices. I had a buffet out there. I definitely took advantage of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just knew your groove was racing and fueling when you're racing and not necessarily like being able to see in that moment that like, I'm going to be out here for 8 hours, like 8 hours just in one discipline. Like even though you're walking, you have to fuel.
And when I finished the bike and the swim, I was only at 8 hours, or it was about 8 hours.
Yeah.
So I had double that to still do a marathon, which I tried not to focus on. Again, tried not to focus on it. I focused on what else I could do. Yeah.
All right. After completing like this monumental race, what do you feel that you can now bring to your athletes that maybe wasn't there before? I mean, should we warn them that like no excuses?
I would say watch out for putting in training peaks that you didn't feel like going out for a session. No, everybody's different.
Is this the warning section?
Everybody's different.
Podcast? Yeah.
There's an unshakability and invincibility. There's a Superman strength and belief now that is even more ingrained in me. I was pretty confident before, pretty set in what I can achieve, but now it's no joke. Like, this has changed me forever. This finish line and perseverance in deciding to walk a marathon when I didn't have to, and delivering upon that with less than an hour to spare under the time cutoff is just a testament to the mindset training that everyone can do. Everyone has the same opportunity to train the mind as I do. And if you do take advantage of that, there is limitless potential to what you can achieve. We fall to the evidence of now, and our mind will get lazy and fall to what is comfortable always. And we must be awake and ready for those moments when change is possible. And this was one of those moments. And I clearly had points where the out was so available, but I chose another way. And I'm walking down that finish line in Honolulu, and I walked with like so much purpose and confidence in myself that I did this all on my own, with your help, of course, energetically, um, being there for every step of the way. You really were there with me, because it does take a community. And I couldn't do this without you, for sure. But those steps leading to the ramp, and then the release of emotion, giving high fives to all the fans and spectators, like, there was such power in those moments, that the release, if you haven't seen it at the top when throwing my fist and really expressing the gratitude for achieving success on the day by crossing that finish line, it's set a new trajectory. So to get back to what you were saying, athletes, watch out. This is only feeding my confidence in each and every one of you, that if you do train your mind and you do give yourself a chance, you can achieve the very same thing. There's no difference between what I did and what you can do, but it starts with training the mind. And if you're serious about changing the way that you navigate this world, not just racing and training, but how you react to your community, your coworkers, your family, all the person in the car that cuts you off. If you want to change your life, you need to change the way that you think. In order to change the way that you think, you need to train the mind to detach from all the thoughts, and get clear on what you have control over, which is your response. So every time a thought comes up, you have a choice. And I have demonstrated in this 3 weeks that you can go from crashing your bike and not walking and being on crutches to completing the Ironman World Championships, the most iconic endurance event out there in the world, And the only difference is it didn't go as I originally anticipated. That's the only thing. I was strong, I was fit, I was ready to rock this race. Didn't happen, but something greater was awaiting me, and I welcomed it, and I did not resist it. So I'm walking away from this clearly a different person, and I'm going to be clearly a different coach. And I expect a lot of the athletes that I coach. Why? Because I believe that they're capable of everything that they want to achieve.
Amazing. That's so beautiful. Yeah, and how you got here was a million different things, right? And so all the athletes on the team, they're going to navigate their million different things. And like I said earlier, there is no good or bad or right or wrong. There's just experience. Every choice we make will teach us its inherent wisdom. But there are some truths, right? There's some science. There's scientific proof, right? Like attracts like. So when we quit, it gets easier to quit. We have circumstances in our life that if we don't step back, if we haven't trained ourselves to be the observer, we might just think, oh, another thing happened. But the thing is, it's just life responding to our past actions, right? So life will organize in a way to support the patterns and the behaviors. So that's why we need to step back and be able to see and say, whoa, I'm doing it again. And, if on October 5th we were just like, okay, cancel the trip, we would have we would have not spent the thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars that it took to get here. But like, that wasn't even anything. We never even discussed it. I think it was one of the first things we said when we got into the car and you were like bloodied and crying. We're just like, well, if you're bloodied and crying, we might as well do that in Hawaii. Like, we're going to let our yes be yes. Like, we're going on the trip 100%.
And that goes against the grain of, I believe, what most people would have done. I feel like most people would look at it and be like, well, I guess this isn't happening. So there's a decision to be made. Do you believe that it's possible, or do you feed the evidence of now? Because the evidence of now said like, no way, like you guys can't afford it now. You don't have a bike. You can't even walk. We potentially are going to have to go get an MRI for this thing, which is not cheap. So all the things would stack up against it. So again, it's like what you choose to focus on.
Yeah.
And so we chose to focus on possibly getting to Kona. And at the very least, if I could just get in the water and start, I said to myself, if I could just walk down the steps on race morning to get in the water, and then I need to be pulled, fantastic. I have won this comeback. But every step of the way was feeding the possibility that I could complete the Ironman, even though the evidence kept saying, if you fed the evidence and you were in our household, you would be like, no way is this guy. He can't even get up off the floor. Look at him get up off the floor.
We'd still be having the poor me party.
Yeah. And I think another piece of it is the X-ray that you talked about. Like, we got an X-ray on my hip, and it didn't say, it said nothing was fractured or broken, but then on second look, it was like, there could be something, but we're not sure if it was already there. So see how you feel after a few days. And if it gets worse, check in with your PCP and get an MRI. And we kind of just didn't even
what we focused on was, are you getting better? Are you getting better? Because the doctor said, if you're getting better, good. If you're not getting better. But it wasn't until like day 4, 5, like maybe even day 6 that you were like, I'm 2% better. And I was like, 2% better. Awesome. But then you went from 2% better to like 50% weight bearing. Like, these things happened really, really quick.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a few things. I know you probably want to get to the next question, but
well, we need to wrap it up.
There's a few things.
We have another podcast that's going to be happening in 9 minutes.
There's a few things. I started taking herbs. Thank you, Melissa Gantz, who's our coach out of Philly, who's also a master herbalist, and she got me on some herbs. So we started herbs. We started the golden milk drink every day. I was falling asleep because it was tough to sleep with the road rash. I was falling asleep to healing hypnosis meditations that over and over began to retrain my subconscious to heal my body. Like I was in my body, moving energy away and then clearing up space for the healing to fast track. I was doing that every night, 8-hour, 10-hour videos. I would listen to on YouTube plugged in while I would sleep to heal my body. I was moving the best that I could. I wasn't trying to lay down all the time, and just kept healing the scars, eating good foods, just doing all that I could to keep myself in the arena of healing. And those things, yeah, are they really important? Yeah, they are. They're super important to healing. Everything adds up. Every little thing adds up to a big thing. And here's the big thing that happened because of it.
Yeah, I would say there was no stone left unturned right up until the day before the race when you saw Lawrence. So you could feel really good about getting on that start line, doing everything you possibly could. All right. As somebody who has gone to the midnight finishers religiously for 20 plus years, you actually became one of those final finishers. So one word, which I know is going to be hard. How did it feel coming down a Leahy Drive, coming through that finish chute and crossing in the darkest of nights at 16 hours and 10 minutes of a journey? After all those years of being so enthusiastic about those who were doing it, you were that person. One word.
Satisfied.
Yeah, you looked satisfied.
Mm-hmm. I had done everything I could. I'd done everything I could. I think the final straw was seeing Lawrence and having him look at my body and doing what he could, not completely like wish it away and fix it all, but to have a little bit more. That was the sign that said, I've done everything I can. I got in the water every day here. I tested out walking, I biking. I even tried to run off the bike. I actually tried a few times to run, but it wasn't feeling good. The impact was just too much. So I've done everything I could to get to that finishing line, and it felt so satisfying to walk across the finish line knowing that I had done everything possible to put myself in the position to finish my 22nd Ironman in 20 years. And know that I never gave up. I never gave up.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good. I'm glad you didn't. It was incredible.
Yeah, I don't see any other way now. I wonder how I'm going to race moving forward.
We shall see.
It's going to be fun.
All right. Well, we're about to hop on another podcast with our Ironman Arizona first timers. So this video obviously is for you guys, Pod Squad. And you're also going to get the first look at this next group podcast that we're doing, but we got to fly because these guys are prompt and they're probably already waiting for us. So thank you so much for being here. If we didn't answer any of your questions or all of your questions, or a question came up from listening to this, please post it and we'll get you an answer.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys.